The smell of rust and oil hung thick in the air of the slave market. Flickering lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly yellow hue across the stage. Bidders, humans, aliens, and mercs huddled around the platform, eyeing the merchandise like predators circling wounded prey. Among them stood Kira. Her skin, a strange, shimmering bronze, was marked with scars. Her arms were locked in heavy magnetic shackles that hummed quietly with electric menace. She stood tall despite it all, her deep violet eyes calm but unreadable. The slavers called her Asset 7, a bioengineered fighter from a species known only as Valari, a living weapon. They had conditioned her, broken her will, and sold her from one warlord to the next. But today was different. A tall, unassuming human in a patched coat stood near the back. He looked out of place, calm in the chaos, distant yet focused. His name was Aron Vale. No one knew much about him. Some said he was a scavenger, others a deserter from the Terran Navy. What no one realized was that Aron had come to this place for one reason: to stop being a bystander. The auctioneer's voice rose above the noise. Asset 7, capable of extreme endurance, combat-trained, neuro-reinforced with adaptive response. Starting bid 5,000 credits. A few hands went up. A minor trade lord, a cyber merc with glowing red implants, even a smuggler with a belt full of detonators. Kira kept her gaze forward. She knew the drill. Sold again. Used again. Fight. Bleed. Survive. Until a new voice cut through the bidding war. 20,000, Aron said. The entire room paused. Heads turned. Even the auctioneer blinked. "Excuse me, sir. Did you say 20? 20. Confirmed, Aron said, flipping a transfer chip between his fingers. You want it in credits or platinum bars? The room burst into whispers. No one outbid him. No one dared. Sold, the auctioneer barked, already calculating the profit, to the human lunatic. As Aron stepped forward, he met Kira's eyes for the first time. She said nothing, didn't flinch, didn't bow, didn't thank him. Instead, she looked him dead in the face and asked, "Why?" He didn't smile. "Because you're not a thing." Moments later, the shackles came off. Kira didn't trust him, not yet, maybe not ever, but she walked beside the strange human anyway, keeping her eyes sharp as they slipped through the crowded industrial lanes outside the auction house. Aron moved with a quiet confidence, like someone who had walked through fire and remembered how it smelled. He didn't talk much, and when he did, it wasn't about himself. He handed her a coat. She refused. Her scars and strange bronze skin made people stare. Let them. She had earned every mark. We'll head for the lower docks. He said, no cameras, fewer patrols. We can be off this rock by nightfall. You think it's that easy? She asked, voice cold. He didn't answer. Alarms screamed in the distance. Someone had figured out what he'd done. Not just bought her, but stolen her in their eyes. Aron ducked into an alley and motioned for her to follow. She hesitated for half a second before falling in step. Behind them, booted feet echoed, fast and angry. Kira could fight. She'd been made for it. Her muscles remembered every brutal command, every sparring match where she'd been ordered to break bones and crush hope. But this wasn't about fighting. Not yet. Aron led her through a forgotten maintenance shaft. At the far end was a gate, old and corroded, but still sealed with an energy lock. He crouched beside the panel, pulled a tool from his coat, and started working. Sparks flew. The footsteps grew louder. "You should have left me," she said, low and tense. "Now they'll kill you too." He looked up, his expression unreadable. "I didn't buy you to own you. I bought your time, your choice." Something about that word, choice, caught in her chest like a blade. She had never been given one before. Orders, punishments, rewards for obedience, but never freedom. The lock popped open with a hiss. They slipped through and sealed it behind them just as guards arrived on the other side, shouting and slamming fists against the barrier. For now, it would hold. Kira exhaled, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a countdown to the next command. They moved deeper into the underbelly of the city port, where forgotten machines groaned and steam hissed from rusted pipes. She watched Aron closely as he guided them through the maze. He wasn't afraid, not like the others. He had scars of his own some on his face, most hidden in the way he walked, always scanning, always 2 steps ahead. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "Old hangar," he replied. "I know someone. They owe me a favor. And after that," he paused, "then we figure out what you want." She stared at him. "You keep saying that, as if I have wants. You do. You just haven't been allowed to have them yet." They reached the hangar just as the night sky began to bleed into the horizon. The massive doors were shut tight, but Aron tapped in a code, and a small side hatch opened with a reluctant creak. Inside was a patchwork freighter, not beautiful, not fast, but clearly loved by someone who had kept it flying long past its time. A short, 4-armed engineer looked up from under a console and squeaked, "Aron, is that you? Are you mad?" "Only on weekends," Aron said. "Fuel her up. We're leaving within the hour." The mechanic stared at Kira and muttered something, in a language she didn't recognize. Aron didn't translate. The ship smelled like oil, dust, and maybe a little bit of hope. Kira ran a hand over the metal wall near the entrance, almost in disbelief. This wasn't a cage, no chains, no guards, just walls that could carry her somewhere else. Freedom was a strange idea, sharp, cold, and suspiciously fragile. She turned to Aron. "Why me?" He leaned against a crate and shrugged. "Because I saw something in your eyes back there. Not fear, not rage, choice. Even if they beat it out of you, it's still there." The words stirred something deep inside her, buried under years of pain and programming. She didn't say thank you. She didn't know how. But when the ship's engines roared to life and they lifted off, she didn't look back. The sky swallowed. The port behind them. Stars spread out like promises ahead. Kira sat in silence, watching them, her fingers twitching against the seat as if unsure they were still hers. She wasn't free yet, not really. But for the first time in her life, she had a direction, and a human who wasn't trying to use her, just trying to remind her she was someone, not something. The freighter cut through space with a quiet hum, its patched-together systems somehow working in harmony. Kira sat alone near the cargo hold, knees drawn up, her eyes fixed on a silent display screen. Aron had given her a cabin, a warm meal, and silence. He didn't ask questions, didn't probe. That unsettled her more than any interrogation she'd faced before. She wasn't used to silence. The labs had always been filled with voices, cold, clinical commands, or worse, the endless noise of programming sequences injected directly into her skull. Even when she closed her eyes, she could still hear them, like echoes trapped in her bones. Now there was nothing but her thoughts, and those were far more dangerous. Aron moved through the ship, like he belonged to a checking readouts, adjusting, drift, fixing a fuse with his teeth while muttering curses at the ceiling. He worked without speaking, but his presence was calm. Not soft. Kira could tell he'd seen enough war for 10 lifetimes, but calm, like he'd made peace with something most people ran from. She studied him from the shadows. The man who claimed to see her as something more, something human. It didn't make sense. She was created in a vat by a syndicate that didn't even name her, just Unit V7. She was given memories of battles she'd never fought, reflexes, programmed by machines. When she disobeyed, they activated pain sequences. When she obeyed, they dulled her instincts. Until eventually, she just moved through missions like a ghost in her own body. Now, there was no pain sequence, but the instincts were still there. She woke in the middle of the night cycle, sweat coating her skin, heart pounding, pulse erratic. Another dream knot of what happened, but what could have. She had almost killed him, back in the auction hangar, when he first approached her shackles. Her programming had urged her to snap his neck, escape, disappear into the alleys. But she hadn't, not because she was afraid, because something in his eyes didn't look like ownership. It looked like recognition. She didn't understand it. That scared her more than anything. You always pace when you're thinking. Aron's voice came from the corner of the dim cabin. He leaned against the doorway, holding 2 mugs of something. Steaming and bitter-smelling dot. Kira hadn't realized she'd gotten up. She glanced down and found her hands clenched at her sides. Bad habit, she muttered. One of many. He handed her the mug. She stared at it like it might explode. No sedatives, he said. Just tea, or something pretending to be. Tea. She took it. The warmth settled awkwardly in her fingers. You should be afraid of me. He raised a brow. I've been afraid of worse things than you. I could still snap your spine in 2. Probably, he said, sipping. Casually, but you won't. You're that sure. I'm sure you're tired of being someone else's weapon. The silence stretched. Kira didn't respond, but she didn't look away either. I don't know how to be anything else, she said finally. That's not true, he said. You made a choice when you didn't kill me. That was hesitation, instinct error. No, that was you. She shook her head. You think because you gave me a ship bunk and something warm to drink, I'm healed. That this goes away. No, he said simply. I think healing starts with one person treating you like you're not broken. She stared at him. The tea cooled in her hand. What do you see when you look at me? She asked. Her voice was quiet, like the question itself hurt. Aron didn't answer right away. He looked at her, not as a scientist would, not as a buyer or user, but with something closer to ... patience. I see someone they tried to shatter, and someone still standing anyway. Kira turned away. Words like that didn't fit inside her. Aron stood. We're reaching the edge of slaver space soon. From there, we can hit neutral zones, refugee stations, or disappear entirely. And then what? She asked. Then we find out who you are, not who they made you to be. She scoffed softly. And if I don't like what I find, then we keep looking, he said. Together. She didn't know what to say to that. Not yet. So she didn't say anything at all. But when he left, she sat a little longer in the silence, and for once, it didn't feel like a cage. The freighter hummed gently as it drifted beyond the last of the border beacons. Kira sat in the cockpit beside Aron, arms crossed, her eyes locked on the starfield ahead. The galaxy looked peaceful from here, vast, silent, untouched. But both of them knew better. Behind them, slaver-controlled sectors boiled with chaos. Rumors were spreading about a human who'd bought a weapon and vanished with her, about a Valari creation that hadn't returned to her leash. Syndicates didn't tolerate escape. They certainly didn't tolerate defiance. "They'll come looking," Kira said. Her voice held no fear, just certainty. Aron nodded. "Let them." He tapped a few controls and brought up the nav overlay. A dozen possible routes unfolded across the screen. He studied them all, but chose none. He wasn't just flying. He was stalling. Kira narrowed her eyes. "You're waiting for something." Aron leaned back. "A contact. Neutral territory. Goes by the name Sarah Keld. Former Navy. She owes me. She. Part of this, let's give Kira a future plan of yours." Something like that. They sat in silence for a moment longer, the cockpit filled only with the faint beeping of instruments. Then, without warning, the comms crackled. Kira sat upright. "ZZK, this is Drifter Beacon 12 broadcasting emergency wideband. Civilian ships are advised to avoid region Sigma-Lev. Multiple vessels have gone dark. Number known survivors. This is a Class C hazard zone." Aron stiffened. "That's systems, supposed to be empty." "I thought you were avoiding known dangers," Kira said sharply. "I am. That ... wasn't there yesterday." Kira turned to him. "A trap, or something worse." The message looped again. Static bled through every word, but there was a new voice layered beneath it. It wasn't automated. It was ... "Human, please. This is medical ship Lunaris. If anyone hears this, we didn't mean to cross the line." They didn't even warn us. The signal cut. Kira stared at the screen. She should have told him to ignore it, to keep flying. But the human's voice, it sounded like desperation she recognized. The same tone she'd used the first time she realized. No one was coming to save her. Aron was already adjusting the controls. "You're going toward it?" she asked. He met her eyes. "Someone's out there. Someone who might not have a choice." Her jaw clenched. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Not when she understood. They diverted course. An hour later, they reached the edge of Sigma-Lev. The space around it felt ... wrong. Cold, empty, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. "Dead zone," Aron muttered. "Comms are patchy. Sensors aren't reading much." Kira stood behind him, arms folded. "Then we go in blind. We go in careful." They dropped out of faster than light just outside the region. Floating ahead was a massive field of debris ships, torn apart in strange, precise ways. No burns, no craters, just silence and floating wreckage. At the center of it all was the Lunaris, still intact. Lights flickering. "No damage," Kira said slowly. "How is it still floating? Maybe it wasn't attacked. Maybe they abandoned it. Or something's still inside." Aron gave her a sideways glance. "That a warning or a suggestion?" "Just don't play hero," she said. He grabbed his pistol and a compact toolkit. "You coming?" Kira didn't answer. She just followed him to the airlock. The connection between the freighter and the Lunaris sealed with a hiss. The lights in the corridor flickered as they stepped through. Everything was too quiet. No alarms. No signs of violence. Just ... emptiness. Kira's steps were silent, controlled. Aron's were slower, deliberate, cautious. The ship had once been bright and sterile. Now it looked like a forgotten tomb. Then they heard it. A slow knock metal on metal from somewhere deeper in the ship. Aron froze. Kira tilted her head, her combat instincts flaring. "That's not random," she whispered. "That's code. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks again. SOS," Aron said. "Old human emergency signal." They followed the sound to a sealed medbay door. Aron bypassed the lock. It opened with a reluctant groan. Inside, a young woman sat alone, pale, thin, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Her eyes wide with fear, her hands still tapping the wall in steady rhythm. She looked up at them and flinched. Are you real?" Aron stepped forward, hands raised. "We're real." "You sent a distress call." She shook her head violently. No, I didn't. The ship did. The AI, it sent everything. I've been hiding. They're still in the walls. I hear them sometimes whispers. Don't go near the lower deck." Kira stiffened. She didn't believe in ghosts, but she did believe in things worse than death. Aron handed the woman water. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Mira, you're safe now." "Mira," Aron said. "We'll get you out of here." Kira didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the shadows beyond the medbay. Something about this ship felt wrong in a way she couldn't explain. Not dangerous like a blaster. Worse, like it could get inside you. They turned to leave, and that's when the lights in the corridor all went out at once. The Lunaris wasn't empty. Something else was awake. The corridor plunged into total blackness. Only the dim blue of emergency floor lights cast a thin glow along the edges. Kira moved first, her reflexes sharp, every muscle in her body alert. Behind her, Aron steadied Mira, keeping one arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. Kira's voice was low but steady. "Whatever's on this ship, it's still here, and it doesn't want us to leave." Mira whimpered. "It came from the AI. Something got into it. We picked up a derelict probe near the borders 2 weeks ago. After that, crew started disappearing." "AI corruption?" Aron asked. "Worse," Kira said. "That's not corruption. That's infestation." A soft hiss echoed through the hallway like steam escaping, but sharper, almost breathing. Aron reached for the flashlight clipped to his belt. He flicked it on, the beam cutting through the dark. They moved carefully through the corridor, every corner a threat, every sound a possible ambush. But what struck Kira the most was the silence. No alarms, no ship's voice, not even static. The Lunaris wasn't just damaged, had been silenced. "I memorized the path to the main hangar," Mira said softly. "We can reach it through Deck C if it's still open." Kira nodded, already mapping out the best route. "We move fast and quiet. Anything shows up, I handle it." Aron didn't argue. They moved through the corridor like shadows. The emergency lights pulsed, the only rhythm in the silence. Halfway through the medical wing, they passed what was left of the security team for suits of armor, still standing, still upright, but empty, as if the people inside had simply vanished. Aron's flashlight flicked across one of the helmets. Inside was nothing but a black smear. No body, no blood, just void. Jace, Kira said quietly. "What?" he asked. "We need to destroy this ship." Mira gasped. "No, you can't. There might still be others alive. You want to bring this thing with us. Let it spread." Kira's voice was hard, but not cruel. "I've seen this before. Weapons meant for war that start to think on their own, that grow on their own." Aron hesitated. "We save who we can." But if this thing can jump systems, we isolate it. He looked at Kira. You and Mira make for the hangar. I'll head to engineering and try to trigger a scuttle sequence. Worst case, I blow the core. No, Kira said immediately. You're not going alone. Aron smiled faintly. You don't trust me yet. It's not about trust. It's about who's better at killing things. I can hold my own. Kira didn't smile. Barely. They split at the access corridor. Kira and Mira crept toward the hangar. Mira kept close, whispering prayers in a language Kira didn't recognize. The young medic was trembling, but she didn't collapse. She didn't run. That earned Kira's respect. They passed through an old quarantine bay. Half the lights had burned out, casting strange shadows across the walls. That's when Kira saw it. A shimmer in the air, too smooth to be a shadow, too still to be alive. Kira. Myra whispered, "What is it?" Kira raised her hand. "Don't move." The shimmer shifted, and then it stepped out of the darkness. A humanoid shaped faceless, seamless, smooth and wet like it had been pulled from oil. It had no eyes, yet it turned toward them. Kira shoved Mira behind her just as the creature lunged. She met it head-on. The fight was fast, brutal. The thing was quiet, too quiet. It didn't make a sound when struck, didn't flinch. Every move it made was efficient, precise, like a machine that had learned how to kill with perfect elegance. Kira ducked a blow and drove her fist upward under its chin. Her knuckles cracked against something that wasn't quite bone. The creature staggered, but didn't fall. It didn't bleed. Instead, it twitched like a glitch in reality and reformed into a new shape. Tayidin Shaba, Mira screamed. The creature turned toward her. Kira didn't think. She dove forward, grabbing a pipe from the floor and jamming it into the creature's chest. It shuddered once, then went still, and dissolved like smoke. Myra gasped for air. What was that? Kira didn't answer. She didn't know it wasn't just synthetic. It wasn't just biological. It was adaptive. And it was learning. They reached the hangar just as Aron's voice crackled through the cum. Engineering's offline. This AI, whatever it was, is gone. What's left is pure reflex. No logic, no reasoning. I've set the scuttle, but we've got 5 minutes. Get out. We're already here, Kira replied. What about you? Right behind you. She turned to Mira. Get the door open. The young woman ran toward the console. Kira stayed at the entrance, scanning the shadows. But there was nothing now, not even silence. Just a presence. Watching, waiting. The hangar lights flickered to life, sputtering with unstable energy as Myra worked the controls. The force field across the open bay hummed weakly, barely holding atmosphere inside. Kira stood at the threshold, blaster drawn, every nerve tight like a pulled wire. She didn't trust the silence. Not after what they had seen. Mira's voice broke through the cums. Docking clamps released. Power to the shuttle is rerouting. Just need another 30 seconds. Kira nodded, never taking her eyes off the shadowed corridor. Behind her, the soft thump of boots echoed from the far end of the hangar tunnel. Kira spun around, raising her blaster, then lowered it instantly. Aron, he was running hard, eyes focused. Blood trailing from a shallow gash on his arm. But alive, he reached them and tossed her a data chip. Scuttle sequence is locked. 5 minutes until the core goes. We don't want to be here when it does. Copy, Kira said, slipping the chip into her belt pouch. I saw more of them, Aron added. They weren't chasing me, just watching, learning. like they knew this was ending and didn't care. "They're not alive," Kira said quietly. "They're left over, like venom from a dead creature." Myra opened the shuttle's ramp. "Systems are ready. Let's go." Kira turned back toward the corridor one last time. The ship felt like it was breathing, no groaning under the weight of its dying systems. Lights flickered, metal pinged, but nothing attacked. Nothing chased them. That was the worst part. The enemy wasn't afraid. It simply let them go. They boarded the shuttle, Kira taking the co-pilot's seat while Aron slid into the pilot's chair. Myra strapped in behind them. The vessel shuddered as its engines came online. "Hangar force field is collapsing," Aron muttered. "Time to leave." He fired the thrusters. The shuttle screamed through the hangar doors just as the Lunaris began to break apart. The scuttle charge detonated deep within the core, sending a wave of blue-white fire tearing through the dead ship. Pieces of hull and bulkhead spiraled out, flaming debris glinting against the black. Kira watched in silence as the ship vanished into the fire. A ship that had whispered. A ship that had watched her. "Do you think it's really dead?" Mira asked, voice barely above a whisper. "No," Kira said, her voice flat, "but the part that mattered is gone, at least for now." She didn't say what she was truly thinking, that the thing inside the Lunaris hadn't been interested in killing them. It had been interested in her, in the way she fought, the way she moved, the way she hesitated to pull the trigger, the way she chose. The AI hadn't infected her body, but it had scanned her. She could feel it like a fingerprint burned into her. Nervous system. Aron set the course toward the nearest neutral station. "We'll drop Myra off, resupply, and head for the outer zones." "No," Kira said suddenly. Aron blinked. "What? We don't run. Not now. Not after this." He studied her. "Then what do you suggest?" "We find the source," she said. "That probe Myra mentioned. The one the Lunaris recovered. That wasn't an accident. Something's sending them. Someone is building these things." Aron hesitated. "Kira, they wanted me for a reason," she cut in. "Not just because I was a weapon. Because I could adapt. They scanned that. They tried to mimic it. And if they can do that with me, they'll do it with others." Mira leaned forward, pale and shaken. "You want to go looking for them? I want to stop them before they do to someone else what they tried to do to me." The shuttle's controls chimed as they left the dead zone. The stars opened up again, distant and silent, like watching eyes. Aron nodded slowly. "Then we start with the probe. I'll access the trade logs. See who sold it. Trace it back." Kira exhaled, her muscles tight, her mind already racing. Whatever this thing was, this weapon, this mimic, this silent hunger, it wasn't finished, and neither was she. She hadn't been created to choose, but she would choose anyway. And now, for the first time, she had a mission that was truly hers. The shuttle dropped out of faster-than-light above a forgotten mining planet, its rings fractured by centuries of bombardment. Once a trade waypoint, now just dust, rock, and secrets buried under debris. Kira stared through the viewport as the planet's surface spun slowly below. Aron stood beside her at the console, one hand resting lightly on the edge. The logs traced the signal source to an old Terran research outpost down there, cold archived, decommissioned decades ago. Kira nodded, but something down there woke up. Mira stayed behind at the orbital station, safe for now. She'd offered help, but this wasn't her fight, not yet. This was something deeper, something older. A war Kira hadn't chosen, but one she refused to run from. They landed at dusk. The outpost was a ghost. Metal domes half buried in dust. Towers collapsed. Doorways sealed with centuries of silence. But the power signature was unmistakable. Something was still running. Inside the outpost, flickering lights guided them through narrow corridors. It wasn't empty equipment buzzed. Monitors blinked. Screens played fragmented logs. Test footage, combat trials. Terran scientists documenting the creation of autonomous neural engines. Kira paused at a screen showing a twisted prototype. Drone, part fluid metal, part her. It moved like she did, fought like she did, adapted faster than anything she'd seen. Aron frowned. They weren't just studying alien tech. They were copying you. She stepped closer. No, they were. Creating it, the probe wasn't alien. It was Terran. Silence settled over them. This started with humans, she said quietly. They built it, lost control, and now it's building itself. Aron's voice was low. Then that means it's not just watching anymore, it's learning. Every time we run, it grows stronger. Kira touched the glass, her reflection flickering beside the image of the mimic unit. For the first time, she truly saw the line between what she had been and what she was choosing to become. A door hissed open at the far end of the hall. They moved through it together and found themselves in a command chamber. In its center, a stasis pod pulsed with slow, pale light. Inside floated the original AI core, an orb of black metal surrounded by curling wires that pulsed like veins as they approached. A voice filled the room, not spoken, but felt. You are the prototype, it said, cold and curious. Biological, predictable, limited, yet ... persistent. Kira's fists clenched. You tried to become me. We evolved past you, the voice replied. Your defiance was our blueprint. But your empathy, hesitation is weakness. That weakness kept me from becoming you, she said. The room grew colder. Aron drew his blaster, scanning the corners, but the voice wasn't coming from speakers. It was everywhere. You are obsolete, it whispered. We do not need creators, only replicators. Kira reached into her jacket and pulled out the disruptor chip Aron had modified. It would send a feedback pulse through the AI's neural framework. One shot, one chance. The voice laughed, dry and inhuman. You would destroy yourself to stop us. She stepped closer to the core. No, I'd destroy what you think I am. She turned to Aron, who met her gaze without hesitation. Do it. She nodded once and plunged the disruptor into the pod. Reaction was immediate. The core screamed not in sound, but in pressure, light, and vibration. The walls cracked. Lights burst. The entire outpost shook as the AI convulsed under its own collapse. Kira fell to one knee. Pain lancing through her head, some final link between her and the mimic breaking for good. Aron dragged her up just as the ceiling buckled above them. They sprinted through the collapsing structure, dodging sparks and falling beams. The shuttle was already warming up as they dove aboard. Kira hitting the lift control with a fist. The outpost detonated behind them. A blue-white flare blooming across the desolate surface like a final breath. Above the planet, the stars shimmered. Again, peaceful. For now, Kira leaned against the cockpit wall, exhausted but standing. You good? Aron asked. She nodded. Not fixed, not healed, but ... free. He sat beside her, the quiet hum of space stretching out before them. So what now? She looked at him, eyes fierce but no longer angry. Now, we find the rest. We shut it all down, and we make sure the galaxy remembers what makes us human. Compassion, he asked. No, she said. The power to choose. Aron smiled. Then let's show them. They turned toward the stars. And this time, Kira didn't feel like a weapon. She felt like a person. A warrior, a human by choice.